Hello everybody, it's Stella from New Hope Wellbeing and we are back with another video. Today's is probably going to be a fairly lengthy video because we are discussing the last of the primordial gods in the Greek pantheon, and she's probably the most well-known and well-respected of the gods, and that is Gaia, the goddess of the earth. And she has a lot of lore and she's in a lot of mythology. It's probably why I've been holding off covering her, because there is just so much to her. And as I said, she's probably the most well known of all the primordials, and is still worshipped to this day. So Gaia, she's the goddess of the earth. She was one of the primordial elemental deities born at the dawn of creation. Gaia is the great mother of all creation. The heavenly gods were descended from her through her union with Ouranos, the sky. The sea gods from her union with Pontos, who was the primordial god of the sea. Sorry. The giants from her mating with Tartaros, the pit, and mortal creatures born directly from her earthly flesh. Gaia was the chief antagonist of the heavenly gods. First, she rebelled against her husband, Ouranos, who imprisoned several of her giant sons within her womb. Later, when her son Kronos defied her by imprisoning these same sons, she sided with Zeus in his rebellion. Finally, she came into conflict with Zeus, for she was angered by his binding of her Titan sons in Tartaros. She birthed a tribe of giants and later the monster Typhonos to overthrow him, but failed in both of these attempts. In ancient cosmology, the earth was conceived of as a flat disk encircled by the river Oceanus, and encompassed above by the solid dome of heaven and below by the great pit of Tartaros. Earth supported the seas and mountains upon her breast. In a Greek vase painting, Gaia was depicted as a buxom matronly woman rising from the earth, inseparable from her native element. In mosaic art, she appears as a full-figured woman reclining on the earth, often clothed in green, and sometimes accompanied by troops of fruits or of the seasons, or by the seasons, I should say. She is the very personification of the earth, and she does appear in quite a few of the Homer's poems. And she's obviously in the Iliad, where there was a black sheep that was sacrificed to her, and she was invoked by a lot of people who took taking oaths. So this is from the cosmology of Hesiod, his theogony. It starts as we've covered in a few of the videos. First came chaos, and then it's really at first chaos came to be, but next wide-bosomed Gaia, the ever-sure foundation of all the deathless ones, who holds the peaks of snowy Olympus and dim Tartaros in the depth of the wide-pathed earth, and Eros, fairest among the deathless gods, who unnerves the limbs and overcomes the mind and wise counsel of all gods and all men within them. And then obviously goes on and on. Then covers off Erebos and Nyx, then Ether and Hemera, before coming back to Gaia and discussing her firstborn story with Uranus, or starry Uranus, equal to herself, to cover her on every side. And she brought forth long Aurea, who were the mountains, who we have also covered off, graceful haunts of the goddess nymphs, who dwell amongst the gleams of the mountains. She bare also the fruitless deep with his raging swell, Pontos, without sweet union of love. But afterwards she lay with Ouranos, and bore the Titans, deep swirling Oceanus, the earth encircling river, Coeus, and Sirius, and Hyperion, and Thea, and Rhea, Themis, and the gold-crowned Phoebe, and Lovely. There's actually quite a long list, actually, of all the children she then bore, who were the Titans, who we will cover off at a later point. So in this is in one of the Homeric hymns. It says, "He, Apollo, sang the song of the deathless gods and of dark Gaia, how at first they came to be. Well-founded Gaia, mother of all, eldest of all beings." This is from the Ovid Metamorphose. Land and sea and the all-covering sky were made. In the whole world the countenance of nature was the same. All one well-named chaos, a raw and undivided mass, naught but a lifeless bulk with warring seeds of ill-joined elements compressed together. No Titan, Helios, as yet poured light upon the world. No waxing Phoebe or Selene, the moon, her crescent filled anew, nor in the ambient air yet hung the earth, self-balanced, nor the sea's arms embraced the long, far margin of the land, though there were land and sea and air. That land no foot could tread, no creature swim the sea. The air was lightless, nothing kept its form, all objects were at odds. Since in one mass cold essence fought with hot and moist with dry, and hard with soft, and light with things of weight, the strife of God, primordial Eris or Kronos, with nature's blessing solved, who severed land from sky and sea, from land and from the denser vapours, set apart the ethereal sky, and each from the blind heap resolved and freed he fastened it in its place, appropriate in peace and harmony. The fiery weightless force of heaven's vault flashed up and claimed the topmost citadel. Next came the air in lightness and in place. The thicker earth with grosser elements sank but burdened by its weight. Lowest and last the girdling waters pent the solid globe. So into shape whatever god it was reduced, the primal matter, and prescribed its several parts. Then first to make the earth, even on every side, he rounded into a mighty disk, then bade the sea extend, and rise under the rushing winds, the gird the shores of the encircled earth. Scarce had he thus all things in infinite bounds, divided when the stars in darkness, blind, long buried, over all the spangled sky began to gleam, and that no part or place should lack fit forms of life. The firmament he made the homes of gods and goddesses, and the bright constellations in the sea. He set the shining fish to swim, the land received the beasts, the gusty air, the birds. So that is quite literally the mythology of how Gaia was formed, how the universe, as the ancients saw it, was formed. Now this just repeats a little bit of what we've already discussed, so we don't need to cover off of that. So in a lot of the different Orphics, whether it's the Hesiod, the Theogony, or the Orphica ones, it's the same children that she bore. It's the same gods that she laid within when it was bearing those children. But in the Hesiod one, it goes a little bit more, I think, into the betrayal of her husbands, I guess you could say. So this is the Hesiod Theogony. And Gaia, first first bear starry Uranus equal to herself to cover her on every side, and to be an ever-sure abiding place for the blessed gods. But afterwards Gaia lay with Uranus and bore Titans deep swirling. It goes on to mention all the Titans, which we've already done. After them was born Kronos, the wily and youngest and most terrible of her children, and he hated his lusty sire. And again she bore the Cyclopses, overbearing and sprite, Brontes and Stropes, and the stubborn-hearted Arges. And again 3 other sons were born of Gaia and Uranus, great and beyond telling. From their shoulders sprang 100 arms, not to be approached, and each had 50 heads upon their shoulders. On their strong limbs, and irresistible was the stubborn strength that was in their great forms. For all the children that were born of Gaia and Uranus, these were the most terrible, and they were hated by their own father from the first. And he used to hide them all away in a secret place of Gaia, so soon as each was born, and would not suffer them to come up into the light. And Uranus rejoiced in his evil doing. But vast Gaia groaned within, and she made the element of grey flint and shaped a great sickle, and told her plan to her dear sons. And she spoke, cheering them, while she was vexed in her dear heart. My children, gotten of a sinful father, if you will obey me, we should punish the vile outrage of your father, for he first thought of doing shameful things. So she said, but fear seized them all, and none of them uttered a word. But great Kronos, the wily, took courage and answered his dear mother, Mother, I will undertake to do this deed, for I revere not our father of evil name, for he first thought of doing shameful things. And vast Gaia rejoiced greatly in spirit, and set to hide him in an ambush, and put in his hands a jagged sickle, and revealed to him the whole plot. And Uranus came, bringing on night and longing for love, and he lay about Gaia, spreading himself full upon her. Then the sun from his ambush stretched forth his left hand, and in his left hand took the great long sickle with jagged teeth, and swiftly lopped off his father's members, and cast them away to fall behind him. And not vainly did they fall from his hand, for all the bloody drops that gushed forth Gaia received, and as the seasons moved round she bore the strong Furies and the great giants with gleaming armour, holding their spears in their hands, and the nymphs, whom they called Meli, and all over the boundless earth. So that goes into, I suppose, the dissolution of her marriage to her first husband, the god of the sky, the heavens. So this repeats a bit of what we've already just read, so I'll just skip through all of that. This one goes a bit more into I suppose, the transition from the primordials into the Titans. Kronos learned from Gaia and the starry Uranus that he was destined to. Oh, actually, sorry. This goes into, skip what I just said, but this actually goes into. So when the Titans took over from the primordials, there was a prophecy about Kronos and how he was to be overthrown. So this is where Gaia and Uranus actually discuss this prophecy with Kronos. Sorry, let me just have a little bit more tea. My throat's a bit dry. Kronos learned from Gaia and starry Uranus that he was destined to be overcome by his own sons, strong though he was, through the contriving of great Zeus. Therefore he kept no blind outlook, but watched and swallowed down his children. and unceasing grief seized Rhea. But when she was about to bear Zeus, the father of gods and men, then she besought her own dear parents, Gaia and starry Ouranos, to devise some plan with her that the birth of her dear child might be concealed, and that retribution might overtake great crafty Kronos for his own father and also for the children whom he had swallowed down. And they readily heard and obeyed their dear daughter, and told her all that was destined to happen, touching Kronos the king and his stout-hearted son. So they sent her to Latus into the rich land of Crete, when she was ready to bear great Zeus, the youngest of her children. Him did vast Gaia receive from Rhea in wide Crete to nourish and to bring up. Thither came Gaia carrying him swiftly through the black night to Lactos first, and took him in her arms and hid him in a remote cave beneath the secret places of the holy earth, on thick wooded Mount Aegeum. But to the mightily ruling son of Ouranos, the early king of the gods, she gave a great stone wrapped in swaddling cloths, when he took it in his hands and he thrust it down into his belly. After that the strength and the glorious limbs of the prince increased quickly, and as the years rolled on, great Kronos the wily was beguiled by the deep suggestions of Gaia, and brought up again his offspring, and he set free from their deadly bonds the brothers of his father, Cyclops, sons of Ouranos, whom his father in his foolishness had bound. And they remembered to be grateful to him for his kindness, and gave him thunder, and the glowing thunderbolt and lightning. Far before that, huge Gaia had hidden these. And then later on, once Zeus had grown up and was able and of strength to take on his father, he then took down his father and released his siblings from his father's stomach, and then they became the Olympian gods. So this goes on to speak of that. But when first their father Ouranos was vexed in his heart, this is about the Cyclopses. He bound them in cruel bonds, and he made them live beneath the wide past earth, where they were afflicted, being set to dwell under the ground at the end of the earth, at its great borders, in bitter anguish for a long time, with great grief at heart. But Zeus and his brothers brought them up again to the light of Gaia's advising, for she herself recounted all things to the gods fully, now with these they would gain victory. Now this goes into the War of the Titans, where Gaia also plays obviously a very big part in it. Zeus came forthwith, hurling his lightning. The bold flew thick and fast from his strong hands, together with thunder and lightning. Whirling awesome flame, the life-giving earth crushed around in burning, and the vast wood crackled loud with fire all about. All the land ceased. Astounding heat. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, I'm going to just keep reading it, but it doesn't actually make much sense. Ceased. A standing heat seized chaos, and to see with eyes and to hear with the sounds and ears, it seemed even as if Gaia and wide Ouranos above came together, for such a mighty crash would have arisen if Gaia were being hurled to ruin. And Ouranos from on high were hurling her down, so great a crash was there while the gods were meeting in together in strife. Oh, okay, I understand now. I do understand now. So when Zeus threw the lightning bolt and the thunder, he caused such a great crash that it almost could have been the destruction of Gaia and of Ouranos themselves. But because they came together, they were able to save themselves from within that strife. Okay. So yeah, this discusses more about the war between the Titans, which we'll probably cover off in more depth when we do actually break down the Titans and what their ruling abilities were. Just going to see if I've got anything about how she was worshipped. A lot about her, the mythology she appears in. As I said, there's pages upon pages of it. Okay, here we go. I do have something here. Yay! Here we go, right here, starting right here. So, in ancient Greece, Gaia was worshipped along Demeter, the goddess of agriculture. So we will cover her off when we cover off the Olympians, as part of a fertility cult. Even today, neo-pagan religious groups such as Wicca observe Gaia as the ultimate mother goddess and the giver of life. As one of the first deities of creation, as well as its first mother, Gaia was the source of all life. She oversaw the fertility of crops and safeguarded children and the fledgling life of all kinds. The Greeks thought of her as a chthonic deity, and that as in one that the gods associated with the earth and the underground world. She was not often depicted in ancient art, but you can find her in some pieces, as we discussed in the early part of the video. But when she did appear, her connection with the earth was strongly emphasized. She was often shown as a motherly woman from the torso up, while the rest of her body is the earth itself. In other representations, she is shown reclining on the earth, sometimes surrounded by other figures symbolizing the earth and its bounty. She is one of the chief gods of the Greeks and was closely associated with obviously earth, agriculture, and the underworld. In ritual, their most distinctive quality was that the animals were sacrificed to them had to be black. We did actually discuss a little in one of the mythologies that it was a black sheep that was sacrificed to Gaia. Despite her role as one of the first beings and a creator of the cosmos, Gaia was relatively minor in ancient worship and cults. However, there were a handful of rituals associated with her. She was often called upon to safeguard oaths in poetry as well as in day-to-day life. In Athens, one of the kings, said to be himself a son of Gaia, was said to have decreed that Gaia must receive a pre-sacrifice prior to any other sacrifice. She was also invoked during severe droughts. She was also associated with oracles and prophecies. The vapors or fumes that produced the prophetic inspirations came from the bowels of the earth, and which obviously is connected to Gaia. The most famous of all the Greek oracles, the oracle of Apollo at Delphi, was actually originally an oracle of Gaia, but later on became Apollo's oracle. She had many temples, sanctuaries, and altars throughout the Greek world, including Athens, Sparta, Olympia, and the Aegea. She was worshipped as so I've already said that bit. There are also numerous cult statues of Gaia. Some of them are extremely ancient. Unfortunately, none of them have survived in total, so we don't have a lot to go on with them. In Rome, she was worshipped as Tellus, and there was a temple built around 304 BC near one of the important roads in Rome. So Gaia may have been the original mother goddess worshipped in Greece before the Hellenes before the Hellenics introduced the cult of Zeus. Less widely worshipped in historic times, Gaia was described as the giver of dreams and the nourisher of plants and young children. She's often shown at being present at the birth of Zeus, but in some legends she is his enemy because she's the mother of the giants. Oh, I think this actually describes, this actually describes a little bit. So, this discusses the sacrifices to them. So, some legends have claimed that her followers sacrificed black animals in honor of Gaia, and white animals were for the sun. So, and in some sacrifices I'd have one of each, a white animal for the sun and the black animal for the earth. As one of the more popular Greek goddesses, many people worshipped Gaia and built temples to her in honor. I wouldn't say she was probably more popular, but she's probably she was one of the originals and stood throughout all the transitions. So she was, as we discussed, the creator of Delphi. Then when she grew tired of the position, she actually appointed a nymph by the name of Daphne to take over. Some other legends actually claim that both Gaia and Poseidon shared the oracle. While she allowed the oracle freedom to speak, Poseidon only allowed his to say what he wanted him to say. But then obviously then later on it would still go to Apollo anyway. There are other temples dedicated to her honor outside of Delphi, and you can find a lot of those mentioned in Homer's writings. There's another big temple in Sparta, that was actually a sanctuary of nurses of the young, and as well. So there's a lot of crossover between a lot of what would become Zeus's temples having been originally Gaia's temples, which is not surprising considering how the transitions went. There are a lot of modern interpretations as well of who Gaia is or who Gaia was. So there are some experts who believe that Demeter and Gaia were originally the same person. And then obviously as the ages went on, there was a split between the two. They also believe that all the stories were originally about the same woman, because they also link in Persephone in with this legend as well. So they actually believe that it's actually all the same woman, and the Greeks just attributed them to a different woman later on. Whether this is true, who knows? Honestly, there's no one alive today who was alive back then who can tell us the truth of this or not. During the 1990s, the hypothesis did gain attention from those interested in preserving, I suppose, the environment. So just to wrap up, here are some quick facts just to wrap up. So Gaia had more than 60 children with her sons and grandsons, along with her consorts and other romantic partners. She's unique because she was born without a father but had several children on her own. Delphi, one of the oldest and most recognizable of all the oracles, was a possession of Gaia's, who she created after creating mystical vapors. Despite the fact that she never settled down with one man, and many chose her to oversee their weddings. At least 11 of her children only occasionally appear in legends as hers. Other legends claim they have had different parents. Ancient Greeks believed that all life and elements of the earth came from her. Leto, Uranus, Apollo and Aphrodite are among the Olympians in Gaia's family tree. The most common names attributed to her is Gaia. Some research indicates that ancient Greeks worshipped Gaia long before they worshipped Zeus and other primordial deities. It was only after they learnt about his heritage that they began following her. The first time she appeared in print was in the Iliad, where Homer described her as a divine being others sacrificed animals to and worshipped. Hesiod also wrote that the goddess had focused both on her relationship with Uranus and how she worked with her children to castrate him. Through Kronos' murder of Uranus for her, Gaia later turned on him and stopped trusting him. When he and Zeus battled, she sided with her other son. Her commitment to her children helped her develop a reputation as a nurturer, especially of young children. Many scholars believe that she appears in fewer stories and legends than other goddesses because she existed before them. I don't know the truth of that because I feel like she's in quite a lot of stories. But she definitely did exist before a lot of the goddesses. Well, the goddess's Greek name I have no idea what that is, so we'll just scrap that. In 1875, a painting called Gaia shows the goddess nude and floating in the air with a cherub clinging to her leg. She has a close connection to both the Titans and the Giants, as she's the mother of both groups. And the term Gaia comes from her name and is now a scientific term used to describe the Earth. She is the primordial Mother Earth who governed the universe before the Titans. So that is a lot of information covered off in a very succinct amount of time. But that is the mighty Gaia, the reigning and still reigning primordial goddess of ancient times and today. So I hope everyone found this video helpful and interesting, and we will be back next week with some more videos. Until then, I hope everybody has a great weekend, and we'll chat soon. Bye!